Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending the special Higan seminar titled Jodo Shinshu, What is a True Shinjin? At the beginning, I'd like to open the seminar with Gassho and Nembutsu. Namandouts, 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 namandouts. Good morning. This morning, we are very fortunate to welcome the guest speaker, Reverend Yukiko Motoyoshi. She was born in Tokyo, Japan, and raised in Hawaii because her father was a minister in Hawaii Kyodan. She graduated from Kau High School on the Big Island, University of Hawaii, BA in Liberal Studies, University of Wisconsin, MA in Buddhist Studies. He went to Japan and attended Ryukoku University for one year. And she also attended Gyoshin Kyoko, that's a special school to learn about Jodo Shinshin in Osaka. And the temple assignment is, she was assigned to Hirobetsuin on Big Island, Mirirani Honganji on on Oahu, Rifue Honganji on Kauai, and the Honpa Honganji Hawaii Betsuin in Honolulu. Then she resigned ministry in Hawaii Kyodan, and she transferred her ministry to BCA. And she was assigned to Buddhist Church of Stockton, and she retired as of June 20th, 2020. So she was like my mother. She always take care of myself and my family. But we are very fortunate to welcome Motoya Sensei. And at the end, we have a Q&A session. So, Sensei, よろしくお願いします。
Thank you. Good morning. I was a little hesitant to come because I retired, as Reverend Takata said, 3 years ago, and I'm a little bit out of touch speaking or giving the seminar. So if I really stutter, please forgive me. Especially the Reverend Takata gave me a topic called Shinjin. And as you know, Shinjin is the core of the Jodo Shinshu teaching, and it is a very difficult subject. So I have to tell you first, since Reverend Takata just stepped out from the temple, Hondo, if you get more confused after hearing my lecture or seminar, or you have more question about it, good. That means that I gave you some opportunity for you to come up with a question or the interest, and then I'll give that to Reverend Takata. So after the seminar and on Sunday or anytime that you meet Reverend Takata, ask him. And then I understand the Reverend Kuwahara will also give the seminar on Shinjin, so ask him too. So that's all my excuses that, giving my excuse that even if I fail this seminar, I don't feel that bad. But anyway, Shinjin is usually translated as faith. The faith is not really unique in Jodo Shinshu. When we look into our daily lives, we cannot live without faith. For example, we all have a faith that we have next moment. We have a faith in the air that we breathe. We have a faith that we have a house over, to live, the food that we eat. We have a faith in our family who nurture us, protect us, support us. We have a faith that the friend is loyal to us. We do have a faith. Every single moment in our lives, we can't live without believing something. That's the faith, isn't it? Come to the religious field too. No matter what belief they have to have a faith. In Buddhism, faith is also very, very important. We have a faith in Dharma, we have a faith in practice, we have a faith in attainment, nirvana. And because you do have some type of faith in Buddhism, you're here today. You do have some kind of faith or belief that Buddhism is give you some kind of a goodness, or some, you probably have a faith that Buddhism will provide something favorable to you. If it's not, you're not here today, or you're not even online to turn on the Zoom, because we don't want to really associate with unfavorable or something that will bring the unfortunate or unhappiness or suffering to you. So you are here today and you joined this seminar because you do have certain types of faith or some kind of belief. Because you have a faith in Buddhism or Jodo Shinshu, you come up with a rise with a interest. Because you have some interest, you have this desire to learn about it. You want to know more about it because all you have a faith. There was a very famous professor in Japan. His name is Professor Daie Kaneko, senior moment, Professor Kaneko said, seeking, learning, hearing, and understanding the Buddhism are all for to clarify faith. Now he's coming from different, but anyway, because of that reason, Professor Kaneko said, faith requires wisdom. Through this wisdom, we can fulfill faith. I hope I come to the conclusion, end of the seminar, but please put that in your mind. Buddhism, Reverend Kaneko said, Professor Kaneko said, we must first have faith in the Buddhism. Well, it doesn't mean the deep, profound faith, but some kind of faith. And that, and then you're probably going to say, oh, I want to learn more. And then start listening and then hearing. But that kind of interest or question or faith, Professor Kaneko said, you must personalize it. You must internalize it. You have to listen as not someone else's knowledge or teaching, but you must first internalize and then listen or hear, understand that directly related to you. What is Amida Buddha for me? What is a Nembutsu for me? What is the faith for me? You have to start with I. That's most important. Well, when you look into it, Buddhism is not Buddhism actually. If that teaching is not utilized in a person's daily lives. You know, Reverend Takata mentioned that I went to University of Wisconsin. Yes, I went there for masters. I was the only student that going for the master. Rest of them all the PhD candidate. Oh, they were brilliant people. They understood that they have to have a 2-3 language. So most of them knew Sanskrit, classical Chinese, and of course English too. And their understanding of Buddhism is something that I always amazed. We all had to read very important Sastra commentary on Mahayana Buddhism. I couldn't tackle it. It was too difficult, too profound. Except me, they all understood. It was a brilliant classmate I had. And I felt really, really small. But as I was in the class, I realized they're not really learning Buddhism. They are learning Buddhism as philosophy. They are learning Buddhism is just a thought. And that moment, I thought Buddhism died in there. Buddhism is truly effective or truly fulfill the purpose of Buddhist teaching when that teaching was practiced in an everyday life. So because of that reason, faith is important, because faith is a personal thing. It's faith is internalized thing. But anyway, because a person put faith in teaching, as I said, the person rise with the interest. At the same time, one usually arise with questions. What am I doing here? What is the Dharma doing to my life? Oh, I go to the church. I hear Namu Amida Butsu. What does it to me? You know, a lot of questions. Professor Kaneko said, because one raises a question, they put faith in a teaching. And because they put faith in a teaching, one tried to seek to have clear understanding of the teaching. As a result, one attained wisdom. Without wisdom, you do not really understand the teaching. So it's starting from the faith, but it's really wisdom to fulfill the faith. That's what Professor said. Faith in a Jodo Shinshu is very essential. Faith in a Jodo Shinshu is a topic of today's seminar, Shinjin. We use the word Shinjin. And actually is very unique in Buddhist tradition. However, Shinran Shonin, the founder of Jodo Shinshu, who used the word Shinjin frequently, did not come up with this Shinjin out of clear blue sky. Buddhism has over 2,500 years of history and spread throughout the world. As long as they claim themselves Buddhist or Buddhist denomination, they all share the same fundamental teaching or fundamental truth. However, Buddhism have very unique characteristic. Buddhism, as they spread to the different region or different time, Buddhism does not conquer or succumb the different culture or different faith. Buddhism has unique way of spreading. Buddhism usually reach to the new region or area or different culture, different faith. Buddhism simply embrace the culture, encompass the culture, and then meeting the need and the addressing to the culture of that particular region or particular time. Buddhism find way to spread their belief. So in other words, fundamental thing is true, same, but their method of propagation would differ. They may use a different word. They may use a different practice method. But that's the characteristic of Buddhism, and then they all spread the same fundamental truth. Shinran, therefore, come up with a Shinji, not just a unique, just from the top of his head. He explained about the Shinjin. Underneath the Shinjin is a flow of Mahayana Buddhism that not the fundamental truth, but the method of spreading this fundamental truth in a different way. So I thought my opinion, to understand or have some kind of understanding of Shinjin, we must look into the history of Mahayana Buddhism, because that's the base of the Shinran Shonin. Now, Mahayana Buddhism is quite relatively new, 2000, little over 2000 history, but around the beginning of the Christian era, that's around 500 years after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha, there was a great movement called Mahayana Buddhism. Maha means great. Yana means vehicle, great vehicle. What is the Mahayana Buddhism different from other traditional Buddhism is that when we talk about salvation or liberation, they include every single beings. There, if it's not Mahayana, they usually talk about the salvation of monks, of intellectual. Those people are limited. And then those people are not in that category. They are the supporter of these beings to become enlightened. And then when next next birth, they wish that they're going to be born into that category so that they can attain enlightenment. You know, it's interesting, you go to the East Asian or Thai or those Sri Lanka, monks goes around the town to receive the offering of food. And then in the morning, you see all this devoted Buddhist follower line up on the street, and they're offering the food to the monk, you know. And the monks takes it and then nurture with the food, and they practice and they aim to get enlightenment. But all those people who offering the food, they believe that by offering the food, helping the monks, they accumulate enough merits so that with that, they can be born into their category. Therefore, they can born into, they can realize enlightenment. Mahayana Buddhism does not distinguish monks and lay. Everyone, even the evil one, is are subject of salvation. That's the Mahayana Buddhism. But Mahayana Buddhism too, regardless of Mahayana or Theravada, do believe in fundamental truth. And what is the fundamental truth? I'm not going to give you another 20, 30 minutes of the lecture on the fundamental truth of the Buddhism. Just remember the word ta-ta-ta. Ta-ta-ta is a fundamental or ultimate truth of Buddhism. Ta-ta-ta is translated as usually thusness or emptiness. In Mahayana we call it shunyata. Shunyata is, in Chinese character, it's like a star, a sky, but actually means just emptiness. Because of this ta-ta-ta or shunyata, impermanence is explained. Interdependent is explained. Ta-ta-ta means that there is no fixed entity in anything that exists in this world. Because of empty, we are able to change. If the fixed entity, if the something subject, that never change, then you cannot change. Sometimes it's good to, you can be forever 21, you can be forever 16, but the life gonna be so hard for you, you're over 16 or 21 forever. But anyway, for example, this table looks solid, but it eventually will deteriorate, it will break. Why? It shouldn't be if it's not, shunyata. Because there is not fixed entity. As time goes, it changes. I think best way I can explain is the water. Water changed to a liquid, solid as ice, or so free as a steam. Why is it possible for water to change? That water is made of H2O, two parts of the hydrogen and one part of oxygen. But what is that hydrogen or oxygen made of? You're talking about neutron, electron, and all the nucleus and whatnot. What are they made of? And you go on and on and on. You probably end up with nothing, isn't it? But because of their nature is as absent of fixed entity, they can change. That's the fundamental truth. That's why everything is impermanent. It's change. And it goes, that's the fundamental truth of Buddhism. So please remember ta-ta-ta, emptiness. Within this Mahayana Buddhism, there was a Pure Land school, Pure Land tradition. Pure Land tradition start from the India to the China to the Korea to Japan. And Pure Land school teaches entrusting oneself or having faith in Amida Buddha. That's the Pure Land school tradition. And I'm sorry, entrusting one in Amida Buddha, recite the Nembutsu, and to be born in a Pure Land and become a Buddha. Here I like now getting to the really what I really want to discuss. I like to really discuss or explain to you or share my thought of the evolution of Pure Land school. Thought from India to China to Japan and finally to Shinran Shonin. In India, there was a person called Nagarjuna. If you come to the church and you face Amida Buddha on the left side, see, this is a reason for you to come to the church more often. You see the scroll with the 7 monks. That's what we call 7 patriarchs of Jodo Shinshu. But the first one called Nagarjuna, he is the Indian person. He probably lived 150 or 250. So you're talking about the 2nd century to the 3rd century in India. He was known as the father of Mahayana Buddhism. You know, a lot of the Mahayana Buddhism, they have a different denomination. They all look back to Nagarjuna. He is a giant in the Mahayana Buddhism. He was a master of Madhyamika school. It is a school of emptiness. Madhyamika, everything is shunyata, empty. And they really talked about it. But at the later age, in other words, when Nagarjuna became old, he turned himself to the Pure Land school. And then he wrote, I forgot the English term, but Dashabhumi Vibhasha Sastra. But anyway, in there, he talked about 2 paths to attain enlightenment. One is called difficult path, and one is easy path. Now, in the beginning, I said Buddhism have to internalize, have to be personalized. As he get old, this is my just imagination, but I believe as he got old, I think he really, really internalized and personalized the teaching. And then he looked at the teaching and practice of Buddhism, shunyata ta-ta-ta, and said, there are 2 types of people, or 2 types of way of attaining. One is called difficult path. You meditate, you study, and really, really contemplate and give up all the worldly pleasure and all that. But he said it's like going up to the mountain or going to some destination, having going to the mountain, the really, really sharp cliff and whatnot. But he said, oh, there is another path called easy path. This path is the person who are weak and wicked. That's how describe. I do not have, or there are people that they are not able to really meditate 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days. You think nothing but the Buddhist teaching and engage in yourself or immerse yourself into the teaching. Some people cannot do that. They have a family. They have a desire. For those people, he said, Nagarjuna said, there is a path called easy path. It is just like a traveling to the destination on the boat. Just going to the floor and somebody doing it, just get the destination. And he said, that's the easy path for those people who cannot. And then doing that, he said, recitation of the Nembutsu is very good. He really encouraged the recitation of the name of the Buddha. However, because he believed that the manifestation of the belief that, of the teaching, that become a recitation Nembutsu. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that's a recitation of the name of the Buddha. However, at the time of Nagarjuna, he set it up that, you cannot, then there's another path, and then those people who are evil or wicked or ignorant, there's another path for you. But he was too early to single out the Amida Buddha. In Nagarjuna's thought, there is a way for you, but they had so many different Buddha. Now, second patriarch, you have that too, called Vasubandhu. He is a 5th century Indian monk. He is a master of Yogacara. He singled out Amida Buddha. He based his teaching on a larger sutra. We chant larger sutra, Juseige, Sambutsuge, that is all in a larger sutra. But larger sutra is a sutra for all the Pure Land school. Anyway, he inherited the teaching of Nagarjuna, and they can have a Pure Land teaching, and we can attain a Buddhahood by going to this tradition. And he said, to do so, there is a 5 practice gate of mindfulness. I don't want to bore you, so I won't go into in detail. But to practice or to be mindful, you have to use your body, your mouth, your ear, your thought, whole body. You have to utilize to practice. And what is a result of those practice? He said, you have a mind of clarity. You have a mind of calmness. And interestingly, that he said is shinjin, or he said faith. When that's by having the faith, these things come to you. Or doing this meditation, you have a calmness, and then you understand the faith. In other words, Vasubandhu was able to describe the faith in a little more practical way, or should I say, I think if you use the practical way, most of the scholars probably going to get all upset, and then, probably going to start calling me next day. But anyway, Vasubandhu, to me, in my opinion, was able to go a little further than Nagarjuna, and they're trying to explain that more detailed way of practice, so that you have a better understanding of what you believe in it. Okay. Now, then there's a third patriarch called Tan Duan. He is a Chinese person. He lived in 476 to 542, so he's 5th to 6th century in China. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, but Vasubandhu's name is Tenjin or Seshin, and the Tan Duan is Don Lan. If you notice the Seshin, Don Lan, that's what the Shinran Shonin name comes from. One from the Vasubandhu and one from Tan Duan. That much Shinran Shonin adore them or respect them. Now, before I discuss Tan Duan, the third patriarch, I would like to mention about the sutra in China. I said that Pure Land School rely on a larger sutra. About 500 years after Buddhism was introduced to China, 500 years later now, Chinese finally came up with a sutra, Chinese translated sutra. How long that Buddhism was introduced to the Western world? Not 500 years, maybe not. So that's why we're still struggling come out to English translated sutra. You see, you can translate it, but it doesn't mean that's translation. You know, when I started Dharma school, those days was called Sunday school, we call this original vow. I don't know, all people, they probably original vow. But today we use the word primal vow. So it's original vow is English, but it does not really capture the true meaning of the 18th vow, primal vow, which I will discuss a little later. So it get a little bit of translation. It took 500 years for Chinese to come up with a Chinese sutra. So Tan Duan was fortunate that he born in around that area. So he had a Chinese, the sutra or commentary on Pure Land School in Chinese, real Chinese. And he developed more deeper, profound Pure Land teaching, the match or the address the mentality of that period or that person. So Tan Duan, look at the Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, the flow of the thought about the Pure Land teaching and the faith. And then he interpreted the Vasubandhu's 5 items of mindfulness that, calm and clear mind of the everything is, those are actually Amida Buddha. That's what is explained to Amida Buddha. I just mentioned that clear understanding, 5 items of mindfulness, you'll be able to attain the mind that completely calm, mind that completely able to see just as they are. Actually, that's ta-ta-ta, thusness as it is. So, Tan Duan say, that is Amida Buddha. That is the nature of the Amida Buddha. You know that you look at it back of me, I don't know, the camera was showing, but the Amida Buddha, it's standing. There's a lot of the Amida Buddha statue, you know that? We have this Jodo Shinshu statue that you get 48 spoke coming out. And standing, not straight, but a little forward. And then right hand making the circle. Yeah. And left hand making a circle in this posture. Now, you go to the different Pure Land school. Some Amida Buddha is sitting. If you go to Kamakura, there is a famous Kamakura Buddha. That's Amida Buddha, sitting. And you go to the Jodo sect, Pure Land school, Amida Buddha standing, but there is a boat, ship on the back of them. Amida Buddha has a different types of statue. Each statue represent the nature of Amida Buddha. Ta-ta-ta, working. You know, very interesting at Shunyata or ta-ta-ta, moving from India to China, start taking the different form. When you see Shunyata is all, everything is empty. It's now. This table, actually essence of this table is emptiness. You know, it's a noun, isn't it? But around that time, the word shunyata start changing the verb, shunyatizing. It means that the ta-ta-ta, they focus more on the active, moving ta-ta-ta. Amida Buddha standing is that ta-ta-ta moving towards us. Sitting, Amida Buddha is ta-ta-ta in a state of calmness. It is not different. Without either one, ta-ta-ta is not true. If ta-ta-ta is truly empty, but ta-ta-ta is emptiness, that means that there is no distinction between you and others. So if there is no distinction, ta-ta-ta has to include those who are pure and those are defiled, isn't it? So if there's a truth and there's a defiled people, that ta-ta-ta has to work towards defiled people to transform them to ta-ta-ta. But to do so, you must have clear and a very calm state that you can see everything in clarity. That's a sitting thing. So it's a two sides of the coin. Now, Tanduan and all the other Chinese and Japanese Pure Land school, they really focus on the engaging or the active, dynamic ta-ta-ta, moving Amida Buddha. Tanduan is really emphasize on that thing. Oh, when I really, really look into it, what the Nagarjuna or Basvandhu said, that actually they're describing the nature of the Amida Buddha coming towards me. And then you must have a entrusting to those things. That's why he talked about the tariki and jiriki. You when you more and more internalize yourself and more you listen to the teaching, I can't do that. How can I do engaging myself 24 hours, 6 days, 7 days a week, and then 365 days thinking about Amida Buddha? I cannot do that. Let the ta-ta-ta move towards me. My practice, whatever, let them carry me. That's what the tariki is. Understanding, excuse me, those truths and then entrusting oneself to that moving ta-ta-ta. Wow, I'm getting. Then next was Chantal. I'm sorry, behind. Chantal is a very interesting person. I kind of skipping the fourth patriarch, but Zendo or Chantal, he emphasized that living or the Nembutsu, Pure Land school teaching in the time of Mappo. There is a concept in the Buddhist tradition. There's a time of the true Dharma. There's a time of image Dharma, time of the final Dharma. They believe that when the true Dharma period, that's the time of the Shakyamuni Buddha, there was a true teaching. There's a people who practice truly. And then there are people that truly attaining enlightenment. That is called true Dharma period. After now, the period of this true Dharma is different according to the tradition. Some are 500 or others not. But anyway, after that, there's called image Dharma. There's a true teaching, of course. There's a true practitioner. But there's no one really attained enlightenment. Now, after 500, or again different, some say 500, some are 1,000 years, some are 15 years. 1,500 years. The time of Shantao, it was Mapo, or the final Dharma age. It doesn't matter how you calculate it. There was a natural disaster. There was a very chaotic world. Just like I described in today's word, distinction, separation, conflict, natural disaster. In such time, there is a teaching, but nobody practice truly, and there is no one to attain enlightenment. My goodness, there is no hope. That's what the Shantao lived. In a time of Mapo, there is no people truly understand and practice teaching. They are all wicked. They are all ignorant. Well, let me put it this way. Ignorant and wicked means that we live among the people, including ourselves, discriminate people, distinct everything. You and I are different. Well, today's world is different, isn't it? There's so much separation, different ideas, and a conflict. Oh, I believe this, so you don't believe that one. Black against color against white, Democrat against the Republican. It just conflict all over. Generation gap, the parents' idea, it's all new generation's thought. What is the Gen generation now you call this? I don't have any idea, I'm old. But anyway, that's the word. And then at the same time, Mapo is lots of natural disasters. My goodness, we just had, didn't we? All the snow and flood, and then there's a heat, earthquake, fire, and all this thing. Famine. Thank goodness we're out of drought, but there's no guarantee. But in Shantao, really, really personalize that kind of world that we live in. There's no practitioner, there's no teaching, there's no hope for us. What can I do? Shantao truly, truly, profoundly focus on Amida Buddha. If I cannot move towards the truth, truth must come to me. And truth come to me, I have to let the truth come to me as it is. He devoted himself to reciting the name of Namo Amida Butsu. And he emphasized in truly entrusting oneself to the Tatata, means Amida Buddha. That's the Shantao. Now it's really, really coming to really to the point of Shinran Shonin. And then now I'm going to skip to another one and then go to the Honen Shonin. Honen Shonin is a teacher or master to the Shinran Shonin. He followed faithfully to the Shantao's teaching. He also lived in the Mappo period in Japan. There's a civil war going. People are killing each other, Genji and Heike. And then even the emperor was exiled. Even the shogun was assassinated. And there was a lot of people suffering because of the drought of famine. And in Kyoto, there's a lot of dead body, and the Kamo River was filled with dead bodies floating. He lived in that world, and just like a Shantao, I live in this horrible, horrible world, and I look into myself. I don't even have a speck of the wisdom or strength to follow to attain the ta-ta-ta, true enlightenment. What can I do? How can I address to those people? His solution was Shantao's teaching that just recite the Nembutsu and entrust oneself to the Amida Buddha. Now, Tanruan, Shantao, and of course Daojo in the middle, Genshin, and then Genku Honen. They all live in the world like we are living today. And they all personalize and then realize the limitness of ourselves. And the answer was entrusting oneself to ta-ta-ta. I always use this example. I'm not sure it's appropriate or not, but we all have a gravity, you know. We don't really aware of that we have a gravity, but once in a while we realize gravity. You know, I love to watch the rerun show. Have you ever seen The Golden Girl? Okay, one time that Blanche was told that she's supposed to be so pretty one, and then look into yourself, looking at the mirror on the table. You look 20 years older. Try it when you go home or you're at home. You put the mirror, and I tried it myself too. I put the mirror and look down. Gravity. You look 20 years old, you know. That's the gravity. Sometimes I realize that. And then we live in a gravity. But if we truly understand the gravity, there's a freedom too, you know. You can either fight it, or best way is incorporate that gravity so you know your limit, and then you can really live your life with the gravity with a joyful way. You're trying to fight the gravity. Oh my goodness, I'm 20 years old. I have to walk like this, putting yourself like that. Or cosmetic surgery. It's fighting it, but eventually gravity will win. You know, so either you work with it or fight it. If you work with it, it's joyful, isn't it? But I'm saying that when we really realize that, and then that kind of thing, if entrust, it's a really bad example with the gravity, but we let it go, and then entrust into ta-ta, how wonderful life is. How sincere we become. Instead of, no, I'm a good person, instead of, oh, I'm not really a good person as I thought. You become humble. You become more kind. And how wonderful life is. Actually, that is it. So you trust yourself and trust in Amida Buddha and recite the Nembutsu. Honen really emphasized the recitation of the Nembutsu, but we must understand each time he recites the Nembutsu, there is a faith or shinjin underneath. He was, as you know, exiled to the western part of Japan because the government banned Nembutsu practice. And those Honen and other disciples were exiled. And on the route to the exile place, Honen was reciting the Nembutsu Namami Dabutsu Namami Dabutsu. And so his disciples said, oh, teacher, do not recite the Nembutsu because it is banned. If the government find out you reciting the Nembutsu, you be punished. But Honen's answer is, if it was me reciting, I would stop. But I cannot help because the Nembutsu come from my faith, come from my shinjin. Just the Nembutsu is a manifestation of the ta-ta-ta. Therefore, it comes. That's the Shinran's almost there. Shinran's thought. Um, when you really, really trust the ta-ta-ta, or entrust in yourself, you cannot help but recite. I'm really going over the things, so can I just jump in to really, really make the conclusion? 大丈夫? Okay. I said that the Pure Land Sutra, larger sutra, was the base of all the Pure Land tradition. Regardless, from Tanduan to the Shantao to the Honen to the Shinran Shonin, they really seriously look into this larger sutra. Within this larger sutra, there is vows, the Dhammakara established. All these questions that you might have now, I will give it to Takata Sensei and Kuwahara Sensei, so be free to ask them later. But anyway, again, there was so many different versions of the Chinese translated larger sutra, and certain sutra only specify 36 vow, but most commonly we talk about the 48 vow, the Dhammakara established vow. Those each vow describe it, Amida Buddha, the Pure Land, and what is sentient, whatever beings there. But anyway, the most important vow out of 48 is called 18th vow. That's the one we call primal vow. And let me tell you the 18th vow. If when I attain Buddhahood, sentient beings in the land of the 10 directions who sincerely and joyfully entrust themselves to me, desire to be born in my land and call my name, that's Nembutsu, even 10 times should not be born there, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. In other words, Bodhisattva promised that if you have a sincere mind, and trusting mind, and true desire to be born in a Pure Land, you will attain the birth in a Pure Land, and you become Buddha. Tanduan, all this they call the three mind is essential for the sentient being to attain birth in a Pure Land. Sincere mind means a true and real mind, completely absent of delusion. Now we must ask ourselves the question, do I have that? You should see me before my seminar. I said, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. I don't want to share my teaching. I don't understand my ignorance, or why do I say yada yada? Because I don't want people to look at me as less. I always want people to think I'm okay. That's the delusion, isn't it? I want people to think that I'm an honest person. I want people to think I'm smart. I don't want people to think I'm old, whatever. And I want people to be there. People therefore support me or whatever. I am the most important person in the world. That's me. I do not have a true and real mind. That's the sincere mind I'm lack of. And trusting, do I truly trust the Amida Buddha without any doubt? I'm minister now for 40 years. Do I have a doubt? Of course I have a doubt. I'm not thinking about Amida Buddha 24 hours. When I wear robes, I sit in a Naijin or standing offering the incense, I'm trying to look the good front to the Amida Buddha. That's not without doubt. If I have no doubt, I don't care. Amida Buddha will say me just as it is, but still I try to be good in front of the Buddha. Now, do I have a desire to be born in a Pure Land? I don't want to die yet. I know I'm going to die. I'm not scared of dying, but I don't want to die. I have 2 cats to take care of. If I die, my 2 cats going to die too because nobody to feed. People don't want to die because you have a family. You don't want to die because you have so many things to do. We do not have a true desire to be born in a Pure Land. But these three minds are essential for me to be born in a pure land. Tanruan, Shantao, Shinman, Hone, they all realize those three minds are not mine. Where it's come from? That's the mind of Amida Buddha. What is the heart of the 18th vow? That is Amida Buddha with a sincere mind, the true no doubt, and the true desire. Those are all coming from the Amida Buddha, which is the personification of Tatata. Therefore, Shinran Shonin or Honen, they say, I don't have anything. I do not have any other way, but just let the Amida Buddha come to me. And I simply trust Amida Buddha. And that's it. That's all. However, I have to make sure that the faith is not something that I got it. I now trust the Amida Buddha. Once you thought that way, you lost it. That's clinging. That's not emptiness. That's not tatata. We continue to listen. We continue to hear. Shinman Shonin, just hear the Dharma. There's a difference between listening and hearing. Listening is calculated. Listen to your father. Listen to your dad or mother. Listen, you have to specify a certain thing. That's listening, calculated. Hearing that it just comes to you. And without effort, you just hear it. Shinran Shonin said, just hear the Dharma. That is the work until our death. We continue to hear the hearts of 18 vow, the hearts of Amida Buddha. To me, that's the Shinjin. If you have a question, you have a doubt, again, talk to Reverend Takata. And then you have a Reverend Kuwahara in September, throw that question to him. I think Reverend Kuwahara can listen, explain much better. I think I did have 1 hour. Okay. Thank you so much for the listening.
Let's see. Well, thank you so much, Sensei, for your talk. I'm a Golden Girls fan, so I remember that episode very clearly. So always lay on your back, and if you look down, yeah, you will look 20 years older. So I would like to now open this up for Q&A and some discussion and reflection. Even though Motoyoshi Sensei is being humble and saying we should ask Takata Sensei, I think it would be nice to hear Sensei's thoughts on anything, any questions that you may have. So please, as usual, feel free to unmute, turn on your camera or just unmute yourself and share any comments, reflections, or questions you may have.
If I may confuse you more, that's good. Confusion is good because you're confused, so you want to know more. And that's very important. That means that you have interest in it. I thank you. There may be purpose of me talking is maybe 0.5%. I mean, at least half fulfill, I guess. Yeah. It is a hard subject.
It is. It is very difficult. Anybody here? Oh, I don't.
Yeah. I think none of the ministers really use the word faith nowadays, because faith is of course, a Christian term, isn't it? And then it is faith is coming from you to something. Direction is that way to me, the faith. I put the faith on you. And then there's a slight chance, it depends on what kind of faith, but you expect something in return. I have faith in you so that you have you're going to protect me. You know, when I was on Kauai, we had a preschool. And preschool kids, usually when they come, for 1 month they cry. They cry, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And they have a faith in a mother, that the mother will protect them, you know. So to me, that's a faith, isn't it? Faith, or the kids sitting and then just boom, just go back and know that there's a mother or father there. That's kind of a kind of basic of faith, or faith in God, whatever. But it's always direction from me to that. Shinjin, on the other hand, it's not from me to that. I'm putting faith in Amida Buddha. As I said, the Shinjin is coming from that. To me, Shinjin's another term is prajna, or the wisdom working towards you. And we simply, okay, and then encompass, allowing not allowing, but immersing myself to that. So its direction is from outside of me to me. So to me, that is a major difference between. I hope I answered the question. Yeah, it's different, but once you say, "Oh, Shinjin coming from Amida Buddha," I got it. You lost it. You lost it, because Shinjin, the nature of the Shinjin is emptiness. So yeah.
Thank you. James, did you have a comment or question you would like to share? Oh, maybe James. Thank you for this wonderful message. And John had written, "I just wish to commend Sensei for a wide-ranging talk filled with wisdom. It is important to my mind to ground our Shin doctrine in the Mahayana, as you so effectively did." Thank you so much.
You guys are so kind.
and John also had the suggestion for Shinjin as true and trusting.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, as I said, it took Chinese for 500 years to come up with a Chinese Buddhism. I think we have a long way to go. But for us to come up with a good English translated Jodo Shinshu text, each one of us have to have a question, you know, and then internalize and then discuss it. Then we're probably going to come up. It's much better. But actually, today, much better than when I was in Sunday school. You know, we used to call Lord Buddha Amida. I mean, we don't use that word anymore, you know, Amida Buddha. So we came a long way, but we still have a long way to go. So have a question, have a issue with it, or, you know, just have an interest in a question, and please continue to question yourself and discuss with others. That's important to me.
Thank you. John, did you want to make a comment verbally? You had unmuted for a second there before.
Necessarily. I just think that it's so often that we have a narrower focus on the Shin doctrine, and I think that's fine. But what Sensei did was to help us connect back to the larger Mahayana tradition, and of course Shinran did that very effectively in his writings. And so I appreciated the incorporation of the seven patriarchs in the talk today, and I just wanted to commend that. And also, you know, of course, commend Reverend Takata for offering classes on the seven patriarchs when he discusses the Shoshinge. But no, that's all I wanted to say, and I'm just very grateful for this opportunity to participate in the seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Boy, I hate to look at myself. I look so old. See, that's my ego. See?
There's new filters, I hear, that you can change.
I think that's why I'm so grateful that I'm a Jodo Shinshu. Jodo Shinshu gonna give me a little wisdom and power to knocking myself. You're not, like that. In my mind, I'm younger, and then wiser. But every time like this, or my picture comes out, I need more listening.
Anyone else? We have 25 minutes.
Oh, I should
Yeah.
talk more.
You can talk more. Do you want to say more things? Do you want to follow up with anything?
I don't,
You're welcome to do so, yeah.
Let me see. I don't know. I cut it too short. Everything so.
Oh, somebody, James wrote, ego stands for edging good out. I check mine on a second-by-second basis.
Yeah, that's
And
not
he
good.
said, you
That's
look
neat.
great, Sensei.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. Usually the temple people are so kind, and then even though I'll give the lousy sermon, oh, was good, Sensei, it was short, or whatever. You folks are kind, and that's not good for me. I become egoistic, so I really appreciate that critic, so that you're going to give me, I'm a very egoistic person, but you're the one going to give me an opportunity to rethink about myself. So I welcomed all the critic.
Can I ask you a
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, I know that I appreciated how you said that we should just hear, the wisdom, letting it come. How does that relate to our reflecting on our own lives? Is there a process, like once we hear, do we need to make a calculated effort to reflect?
I think it's come together, what I mean. When you hear, that means that, I mentioned the shunyata. Shunyata means shunyatization, that you continuously not delete, but crushing your ego. That's a stigmatization. So as you hear, your ego is crushed in a way. So when your ego is crushed, I think your daily life is a little different. But I have to mention this. It doesn't mean that total destruction yourself now. Your ego. Within this world, ego, you cannot live without ego. This ego give me power to survive. I need to eat. I need to wear clothes. I need to have some money to survive. Those are the ego. You can't live without ego. So I'm not totally denying that the ego. Just be aware that you have that ego, self-centeredness, and having aware of that is, to me, is a power of entrusting, because you kind of looking at your ego from little stepping aside and looking at it. That's the power of hearing, I think. So if the hearing is not affected your daily life, no, it's not Jodo Shinshu. Jodo Shinshu, true hearing is that it does have direct effect. You become more kind and compassionate, I think. I think if you become kind because you're mean, because you went through the hurting, that's how you become kindness. Did I answer?
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay,
thank you so
thank you.
much. Yeah. But sorry, please share whatever you would like to share.
I don't know. I skipped so much. So that's what happens when you get old. You don't remember. Awareness. I think that's not only Jodo Shinshu, but I think that is the strength of Buddhism. Awareness. We say ignorance. not knowing other exists, ignorance that we think we are the center of the world. But when the Buddhism give us the awareness that each denomination has a different method, different practice to give us the awareness. In Jodo Shinshu means entrusting oneself to the Amida Buddha, that become humble and look at yourself from the more objectively. But anyway, what was I going to say? The awareness, I'm sorry. Awareness is knowing yourself. And when you have a truly know yourself, you have a power through the interesting to accept that. I think I mentioned at the Federation of the BWA talk, it is very, you have to be very brave to truly know yourself and accept. Who wants to really accept that you're a lousy person? I'm lousy, but I have this goodness. I am kind of look mean, but I couldn't help it, to justify your own action. That's us. Well, I shouldn't say us. That's me. And accepting and truly accepting, deal with it, you do need a strength. And that's when, again, entrusting comes. So I am dealing with horrible self, and it's hard for me to look into this horrible me. But knowing or trusting that the Tatata Amida Buddha is with me, I am not alone. I can lean or on this go, I'm not alone. That will give me a strength to face the awareness, to more clearly and more humbly or more sincerely. Awareness, I think that is the key too. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sensei. John, please.
I really appreciated when you said that Buddhism embraces, encompasses, and adjusts to a particular culture, and that the methods change or differ according to the culture that it encounters. And of course, in the case of China, Buddhism encountered Taoism and somehow related their understandings to it. And of course, you said it took several hundred years. But I wonder if you could address how should Buddhism embrace, encompass, and adjust to what in the United States specifically amounts to a largely Christian culture? I ask this as somebody who lives in the Bible Belt of the United States, where I'm surrounded by Christians and Christianity. How do we relate to that culture as Buddhists and make efforts to propagate the Dharma, specifically the Jodo Shinshu Dharma?
I'm not sure because we are still working on it in reality, that how Buddhism can have a space in this Christian world. How can we make Christian people understand the true picture of Buddhism, because they still think that we incarnation and you maybe next life you're not good, you're going to be born as a cockroach, or that kind of a misunderstanding of Buddhism. They think Buddhism is like a Zen, especially Jodo Shinshu is like a Zen. But anyway, we are still in the process of it. But in the process, the sutra that I read a long time ago, it makes sense to me. This sutra said, one of the person asked Master, how can I spread the Buddhism? And Master said, you go to your neighbor and just be friend, not to, just be friend, and then be friend, and then that's most important thing to propagate. So the way I took it is that not to be critical, not to be confrontational, but to understand the Buddhism and be compassionate, kindness, then they will have an opportunity for discussion. You know, there's a story about the sun and the north wind. I always use this. There's a traveler going, and they have a coat. And sun and then north wind had the discussion, who can put the, traveler take off the coat. And then so north wind really blew really, really hard, with strong wind, a cold wind. And he thought just blow away the coat. But the colder it is, stronger the wind, the traveler really hang on to the coat. But when sun came out, it's so warm, naturally traveler took off the coat. So to me, that's Buddhist stand, I think. Be friend, be compassionate, and there will be open acceptance and tolerance. And from there, discussion. And without that kind of atmosphere, nothing will start. Also, the same sutra said, if the person refused to be a friend, he simply said, walk out, walk away. There is no merit in confronting or conquering or fighting. It looks so timid, looks so not aggressive, but you think about the Buddhist way of compassion, tolerance, harmony. It's just not Buddhist way. You just walk away and wait for the another time or another opportunity. But interesting, this maybe I should have mentioned, but the same sutra say, if somebody attack you, you have to attack it back. But it's a different way. But did I answer your question, John? It is possible because I was a hospital chaplain in Kauai, and then we had all the denomination. I was the only Buddhist chaplain there, and then we'll have to come up with this pamphlet, religious pamphlet to each patient in the hospital. And then I guess I wasn't about to really, hey, I'm here, I'm a Buddhist, you have to put this. I didn't say a word. And then they were about to come up with a pamphlet, and they say, hey, Buddhist teaching is not here. Buddhism supposed to be this, so we have to put in a pamphlet. I said, wow, I guess I didn't say something, but because of the, by the way, we're all good, really friends. Because of the atmosphere that we created, they will become tolerant, and they somehow, they start using the Buddhist compassion in their sermon. So there is a hope. Yeah, there is a possibility. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I appreciate it, John.
Yeah. Anybody else? We have 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
We can go early.
Huh?
We can go early.
We can go already? Okay. We can end early if we want to, but I just want to give one last opportunity.
Let me see, what did I miss?
Just did you want to make any final comments?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, if nobody else has any questions or comments, I would like to thank everybody for spending time this morning coming to our spring Higan seminar. And I would like to thank you, Sensei, for, as John mentioned, you shared so much, history and, so much wisdom in a short time, and we really appreciate it, putting Joro Shinshu within the Mahayana, sphere, which is very important for us to understand, and sharing how important it is for this Dharma to become part of us, right? Otherwise, it's just not the same as emptiness, but kind of an empty teaching, right? It's cold, it's just a philosophy, but we want to, as Sensei mentioned, I really appreciated how you expressed the hearing, kind of penetrates us, transforms us, hearing this wisdom. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Later on this afternoon, we have another session with Sensei talking about, she'll give a short talk about her thoughts on how we get along with people that we don't agree with. So kind of an extension of what, by chance, an extension of how we've ended this conversation today. Yeah, and then that will be at 2 p.m. California time. Yeah, so I guess, John, for you, 5 p.m.
Oh, he come from.
He's coming from the East Coast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
If I may to be very sarcastic, Andy.
Yeah.
If I may
Yeah.
to be a little sarcastic, I've been minister for 40 years, a little over 40 years, and frequently I hear the question or the complaint from the member, gee, Nembutsu have to be related to our lives. What does a Nembutsu mean? I do have a lot of doubt, the comment that I hear from the members that, the minister doesn't really explain about the Shinjin or Nembutsu, that doesn't really directly relate it to me. And that's the kind of question that I kind of appreciate it, because then I have to contemplate on that, or have to work on that more, so that they have a better understanding. But sarcastically, I think, well, you have that question. That means you're not putting your effort in hearing too. I really, that's a long time ago. I don't think Reverend Maskodan even remember what he said, but he came to Hawaii Betsing, and then he talked about Amida Buddha and, listening, do nothing, just do nothing. He said, just do nothing, but do it well. That part, we talk about the tariki and everything, but that's the later we realize, that was Amida Buddha's power. But sometimes intentionally, we have to put our effort to listen or hear. That's the reason we come to the temple. That's the reason we come to seminar. That's the reason we read. But please have, just when we ask the question, wow, the Nembutsu doesn't have a direct impact on my life, hang on to the thought and then continue to hear it. I think that's the only way. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sensei. So, John, I will send you the link. Is there anybody else that needs me to send the link for the afternoon session? I think you all have my email, so if you would like that email, please just shoot me an email and I'll respond to you after I take Sensei out to lunch. But I will get it to you. And then also, again, reminder for tomorrow, we have our special Ohigan service at 10 a.m. And if any of you are local, please feel free to come to the temple. But of course, if you cannot come, we have the Zoom link, which you should have received via email. So thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, John. So Motoyoshi Sensei, again, will be the special guest speaker for tomorrow. So we look forward to hearing your Dharma message tomorrow, Sensei. Thank you. So to close, I would like to ask everyone to join us in Gassho, hands together as we recite Nembutsu. Namandats, 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 namandats. So thank you again, everybody, and I hope that you have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on your weekend, as always.